order to succeed, you must first believe that you can. Good morning and welcome to the program from the Dailies, the 13th day in the month of April, year 2022. I am Olabi Tosin and Sele Elisha is here with me in the studio. We will be looking at the paper's analysis this morning. Sele, good morning.
Me too, Tosin.
Hope you had a good night rest.
I rested well, thank you.
Yes, let's start with our papers. I did.
All right, let's take a look at the Guardian newspaper on 2023 saga Uzibanjo woos APC lawmakers as Adamu Kiari stand down. Detail can be found on page 3. Akere Dodo asks political appointees contesting for 2023 polls to resign within 48 hours. Anger as federal government cut workers' salary. Detail can be found on page 30. Senators' local government boss react as death toll in Plateau attack hits 101. Detail of that can be found on page 30, also of the Guardian newspaper. And the screaming story, we have Kaduna most hit as attacks on power plant rain airports peak. With the rider, Kaduna experienced 5 train attacks, 2 airport attacks within 3 years, and this is a report. Relations of kidnapped train victims give the federal government 72-hour ultimatum. Military arrest security agents taking ransom to bandits in Kaduna for terrorist attack. And Hariwa knocks Buhari over failure to rescue adopted Kaduna victims. The power and the train infrastructure are the most attacked assets in Nigeria in the last 3 years. This was disclosed in a report by a socio-economic research firm, SBM Intelligence, yesterday titled Attacks on Infrastructure in Nigeria. According to report, an overwhelming majority of attacks on infrastructural installations since 2019 by non-state actors occurred in the north. The report comes as the federal government blamed last weekend national grid collapse on an vandalization on transmission power on the Ikpe 130 megawatts double secure transmission. The research firm identified 25 attacks on infrastructure in the country between May 2019 and March 2022 across the country, which listed 19 of the attacks in the north and 6 in the south. The report revealed that from the third quarter 2019 to the first quarter of 2022, power generation plants suffered 6 attacks in Borno State alone. In the northwest, Kaduna State has experienced 5 train attacks and 2 airport attacks within the same period. The Federal Capital Territory has also experienced a train attack at the Buari area during the same period. Other states that experienced attack on its train infrastructure within the same period are Niger and Ogun, while the data of the South-South region reveal attack in the factory in Edo State and pipelines, and detail of that story can be found on page 2. Again, Northern elders ask Buhari to resign over insecurity. Detail of that can be found on page 2. How Nigerians can learn from Adeboye's humility patriotism by Oloja, and detail of that can be found on page 4. We also have a picture story here with the vice president and some senators. So do well to get the Guardian newspaper. You can read any of the stories that is of interest to you.
Thank you, Sele. On midweek Al Jazeera, ex-Zamfara Governor Yari dumps APC for PDP. APC chair Adamu resigned senatorial seat, says I'll miss colleagues. The national chairman of the All Progressive Congress, Senator Abdullahi Adamu, on Tuesday formally resigned as senator representing the Sharawa West Senatorial District. This was even as the newly elected Deputy National Chairman North, Abubakar Kyari, also tendered his resignation as lawmaker representing Borno North Senatorial District. The resignation letter of both lawmakers were read by the Senate President Ahmed Lawan during plenary on Tuesday. Senator Abdullahi Adamu, until his election as national chairman of the All Progressive Congress, APC, chaired the Committee on Agriculture and Rural Development, while Kyari, on the other hand, was the chairman of the Committee on Federal Capital Territory, FCT. Senator Adamu's letter read, "It is with utmost respect and appreciation I inform you that consequent upon my victory as national chairman at the just concluded convention of our great party, the All Progressive Congress, APC, on the 26th of March 2022, I hereby resign formally as the Senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, representing Nasarawa West Senatorial District, with effect from 1st April 2022. I feel a sense of duty and obligation to convey through this letter my appreciation for the cooperation and guidance I received from you as chairman of the National Assembly throughout my official and private association with you. As I leave the Senate, I cannot easily forget the chance and style of leadership that you brought since becoming the Senate President of the 9th Senate." And still on the Al Jazeera midweek, we have a picture story, a cross-section of people living with disability during a disability rights advocacy visit to office of the Attorney General of Enugu State. The big story here on ASU strike negotiations hit brick walls. The rider, "Some things are beyond me," Ngige cries out, says, I can't dictate to Minister of Education." Minister of Labour and Employment Dr. Chris Ngige say he has no control over the current impasse between the federal government and the Academic Staff Union of Varsities, ASU. Ngige said some things above his control because he is not the Minister of Education. He spoke when the government representative of the 2009 Federal Government/University-Based Union Agreement Renegotiation Committee, led by the chairman, Professor Nimi Briggs, visited him in Abuja. Describing him as a conciliator, Ngige said he can't dictate to those at the Ministry of Education. "As a conciliator, I have to make use of the labor instrument at my disposal. The bosses in the Ministry of Education do not feel the strike. There are things that are above me. I am not the minimum. A strike for months now with no end in sight. The union is clamoring for an improvement in the working and welfare condition. Following the commencement of the strike some months ago, ASU and the federal government have met severally. ASU had accused the federal government of insincerity and failing to implement the agreement which it signed, arguing that it will not renegotiate with the federal government on fresh terms and conditions. The union has been agitating for an improved condition of service and better welfare for its members." And since the commencement of the strike some months ago, the leadership of ASU and the federal government had met severally. The minister's revelation is coming against the backdrop of the calls for the resignation of the Minister of Education, Adamu, who many believed had slowed down the progress of resolving the crisis. A former governor of Anambra State, who is Chris Ngige, some things are beyond his control because he is not the Minister of Education. And now, the ASU Zonal Coordinator, Dr. Salahu Lawal, stated this during a press conference at the University of Abuja in Gwagwalada on Monday. Lawal stated that members are ready to return to their duty post as soon as their demands are met by the federal government. ASU embarked on a 1-month warning strike on February 14 and extended it by another 2 months over the alleged failure of the federal government to address their demands. Efforts to reach the Minister of Education, Malam Adamu, for reaction at the time of filing the report was unsuccessful as calls put through his mobile lines were not answered. And we can see a way of resolving this issue between the federal government and ASU is ending up in deadlock because of the issues that are coming up concerning this issue. And now we can see that the Minister of Labour and Employment is saying it is beyond him because he can't dictate for the Minister of Education. And now we can see that the Minister of Education is not saying anything concerning this issue of the strike. We know that they embarked on this strike from February 14th. So we're just hopeful that they will look into all these things and bring a lasting solution to this, because looking at their condition of service since 2009, the condition of service, their welfares are not been met, and that's why these lecturers have gone on the strike, and we know even on their payment roll on how they want their payments to be. So we're just hopeful that the Minister of Education will look into this and give his quick action on how these people can come back, the students can go back to school, so that everything can be resolved to normalcy. And I'm just hopeful that the Minister of Labour and Employment can do something about it, but about this whole issue, although he's saying it's beyond him. But I hope they can just talk, liaise among themselves on how students can go back to school.
Tosin, it's not just about the minister. This is a ministry as a whole, and I know that he has other people that are working with him. We also have the Minister of State. We also have commissioners that are working in that area, and that's why we raise concerns here. If you could clearly remember the fact that let's not just leave this whole burden on the Ministry of Education. Each and every one of us is affected in one way or the other. I remember when we raised concern concerning the cars that the governor of Zamfara and also Bauchi, bought for some rulers, and we're like, why not let's channel this money towards seeing that we bring our kids back in school? I think if we have sufficient money to even buy cars for traditional rulers, then I think we have the money to be able to give. If the federal government can look into getting the means of getting this money in one way or the other, then I think our students will get back to school. But if we're having the Minister of Labour saying that it is beyond him because he do not know what to say, because the Ministry of Education, you cannot tell them what to do. And we also saw him on when newsmen were interviewing him, he said that ASU can testify that he is their friend because he's trying his best. That means he's trying to tell us that indirectly he has been working, or he's playing double role as the Minister of Labour and also as the Minister of Education, because he gave us means on how they were able to borrow from TETS fund, and that was how they were able to pay, and that's why school was on session before they finally went on strike. So I'm just hoping and I'm believing that we should not just fold our arms. If the Minister of Labour is saying there's nothing he can do, are we trying to say that by tomorrow it's going to be 2 months that students have been at home? Are we trying to say we do not know when they are going to resume back? Election is by the corner. Primaries will be starting by May, and lots of things. These are things that if we don't put things in place, that means education is a top priority to us in this country. So I'm just hoping that the federal government will look into what they can do. Let us not just see that because it ended in a brick wall and then nothing can be done. That means they have gone and they have tried all they can and nothing can be done about it. So we're just keeping our fingers and we're reminding the federal government that please, they should do something about this, because the more the students are idle, they become a vessel in the hands of the enemy. They'll be used as hoodlums, causing confusion here and there, and that is not what we want at this period in time. So I hope that we'll do something about it.
Yes, Sele, and still on Al Jazeera midweek, pipeline explosion rocks Delta community, 31 in critical condition. Nigerians' oil production drops to 1.24 BPDs in March. And on presidency, diaspora group rallies support for additional. Customs slams 15% levy on imported vehicles. Details can be found in page 23, and Senate passes Peace Corps bill to others. On pay TV tariffs don't dare our country, Senate President warns multi-choice Nigeria. And we have another picture story on the front page. Do well to visit to look out for stories that interest you.
Let's take a look at the Leadership newspaper. Outrage over fresh 15% levy on Tokumbo vehicles. Detail of that can be found on page 26 of the Leadership newspaper. And on insecurity, resign now, Northern elders tell President Buhari. President Muhammadu Buhari has asked the National Assembly to raise the fuel subsidy to 4 trillion for 2022, and he wants the oil benchmark at 78 PB dollars. And we see that President Muhammadu Buhari has asked the Senate to approve on increasing the estimate provision for the PMS subsidy for 2022 by 3.557 trillion from 472.72 billion naira to 7 trillion naira. The Senate also received a request from the President to approve another loan request and adjustment to the 2022 fiscal framework. The request was contained in the letter dated 5th April 2022, which was read yesterday during the plenary by the Senate President Ahmed Lawan. President Buhari in the letter said an adjustment to the 2022 fiscal framework became imperative in view of new development in both the global and domestic economies. According to him, the development were occasioned by spike in the market price of crude oil. And we can read more of that story on page 7 of the Leadership newspaper. Niger governor and others pay last respect to Mama Sam in Mina. And you can read more of that on page 7. And on 2023, CSO kick against consensus as a mode of choosing candidate, with the rider slam political parties for subverting popular will. Says consensus violates aspirants' rights, will undermine the 2023 elections. Consensus won't give you presidency, Yankasa Sani tells Igbo. APC National Chairman Deputy vacate the Senate seat. Detail of that can be found on page 6. And on the Easter break, the federal government have declared Friday and Monday as public holidays. You can read more of the holiday on page 10. And we have gunmen kill monarch and 23 farmers in Benue. And this is really a sad one. We send our condolences to the families that were affected. We also have a picture story here. So you can do well to get the leadership newspaper and read any of the story that is of interest to you.
And on Daily Independent newspaper, reps bar appointment of customs CG from outside service. The rider says repeals 63-year-old Customs and Excise Management Act. 25 persons killed in fresh attack on Benue communities. On rising insecurity, northern elders ask Buhari to resign. Say president can secure Nigerians. Buhari orders release of 40,000 MT of grains over economic hardship. Details can be found in page 6 in the Daily Independent newspaper. And federal government rejects 2021 World Press Freedom Index, says Nigerians press among world freest. Buhari asks Senate to increase fuel subsidy to 4 trillion naira. Nigeria's crude oil production dropped to 1.354 MMPD in March, and this is coming from OPEC. Apanduere issues 24 hours ultimatum to Adamu, APC chairman, demands respect of court order on Akwa Ibom APC. And on 2023 presidency, why Buhari gave blessings to Tinubu, Oshibanjo, Amechi, and others, with the rider, I have not dropped my presidential ambition for Senate. This is coming from Dave Umahi. Adamu Kyari resigns from Senate, and Senate passes controversial Peace Corps bill, with details in page 7. And a picture story here, we can see the chairman board of directors, Mary Kolo Kyari, and the chief executive officer, NNPC Limited, and Umar Aliu, the chief financial officer, NNPC, during the NNPC board alongside Minister of State for Petroleum Resources official tour of Port Harcourt Refinery Company Limited in Rivers State on Tuesday. As a result of how we say our refineries should be brought back to existence, so we can refine our crude oil. We can see some steps that are taken in the right direction. We can see the boards visiting the Port Harcourt refinery to see how it can be revived, and this is a good step. If our refineries can be revived, so we can refine our crude oil in our country, other than taking it to foreign countries to be refined and brought back to our country, and it's been expensive on Nigerians. So this is a right step in a good direction. That's all on the Daily Independent.
Well, let's take a look at the Daily Trust newspaper. Local government polls, APC sweep Castina and PDP clears Adamawa. Bird SIM cards won't be unblocked without the NIN leakage, and this is coming from the federal government. The big story here, my father was killed because he could not run. Invaders came from neighboring Taraba, and we could read clearly that I think from Monday we had the report where it said some communities have been taken over by terrorists and they attacked in Taraba. We could see that they said it was as a result of that they were able to get to those villages, and we can see that they said, I think yesterday we had that it was just about 80 that were killed, 73 were injured, but we're having that the scores have gotten up today is about 101, and only God knows how many more will be recorded at the end of the day. And that's why we have been calling on the government to look into the issue of insecurity. We'll not get tired of saying this because we need to keep repeating it for the people who are concerned about this, that Nigeria is bleeding. And as I always say that, we don't want to pass a flag that is stained with blood to our generation coming. Because each time I say that and it brings tears to my eyes, because we begin to wonder that this is a system that most of our leaders gain from, and they had the environment was conducive for them to be able to school. The environment was conducive for them to go about their business. So why don't you make that same environment conducive for the generation coming? We don't have to fold our arms and keep recording deaths on a daily basis every day. If it is not Benue, it is Plateau. If it is not Plateau, it's Niger. If it's not Niger, it's Kaduna. People are becoming very tired of even giving up on the government. That's why we are calling, let them look into this issue of insecurity. We all have said this and will not get tired of saying this. Terrorists are not beyond the government. We have upper hand. If it means for us to look into our, will I say, changing the armories we have to be able to attack them, then we should do that. Because when you take a look at some of these armories that the terrorists use, you begin to baffle, like, where do they get these gadgets? They are so sophisticated, and yet our own, they are still using a very small AK-47 that before you will be able to crack and shoot, they have already released over 10 bullets. So we really need to look into that. We can't keep saying we are collecting loan to fix the road. If you are fixing the road, fixing the hospital, who are the people that will ply the road when there is no life? Who are the people that will use the hospitals if the lives are not safe? So let's look into making sure that we put everything in place so that we can all enjoy Nigeria. Just like you said, if it is good, we'll all benefit from it, and if it is bad, we'll all suffer from it. So I just hope that the federal government will really rise up to its responsibility, which is its number one role, to protect life and also properties.
Yes, as a result of these killings on the plateau and even in Taraba communities, the president have ordered the chief security officers that they should shoot on sight any terrorists, and they should invade those places and try to look out for peace and security. But Sele, this is not the first time we've been seeing this order given to these people on how they should look out for security in all these places that are being invaded by all these bandits. We're just hopeful, and when you hear from these people, they tell you that they just need the order that should be given to them. Since we know the whereabouts of these people, they should do what is needful, because lives and properties, businesses have been lost as a result of this issue of insecurity. You can see where aged people are not even left out in this issue. They are being killed. Children are also being killed. We still have loved ones that are still in the den of these kidnappers, and threats are still going out to family members on how those people will be killed if ransoms are not given to them. Huge amounts of money are being demanded from family members on ransom to be given to this terrorist kingpin. Something needs to be done about it. If only the security officers can give out the necessary and give out their best in securing peace in all those communities, because we are tired of all these issues coming up in our communities where our loved ones are no longer safe any longer. Even in the city, you see that all these things are happening. In Abuja, we heard when the FCT minister said he had to call on an emergency meeting because of issue of insecurity. So in the country, nowhere is safe. We need to do something about issue of insecurity so we can tackle this issue to the last.
Back was then when we say that it's a religious crisis, but we can see that both Christians and Muslims are among the victims, so it's no more a religious crisis. So we need to join our hands together, be united as Nigerians, and fight this great enemy. Well, still on the Daily Trust newspaper, other stories here. We have killings. Northern elders ask Buhari to resign. And we have 3 remanded for kidnapping 72-year-old woman from Lagos mosques. 25 killed in fresh Benue attacks. Detail of that can be found on page 6. And again, Senate passes Peace Corps bill. You can read more of that story on page 4 of the Daily Trust newspaper. And that's all from the Daily Trust newspaper.
Thank you, Sele. On Voice of Liberty, on Kaduna train attack, victims' relations appeal to federal government to negotiate with kidnappers. While coming from Zamfara State, terror kingpin issues 14 days ultimatum, threatens 300 death. Buhari orders release of 40,000 metric tons of grains to less privileged Nigerians, summons the agric minister. And what's the data of getting the less privileged Nigerians among the over 200 million Nigerians we have? What's the data of getting this less privileged communities, less privileged Nigerians to give out this these grains, because the food hunger is even in the land generally, because even when you go to the market with the little amount of money you have, you can't even get things from the market because of the increase in prices when you talk about food. So looking at this, summoning the agri minister to give out 40,000 metric tons of grains to the less privileged. What is the data of getting this less privilege? I know there was a time where a fund was disbursed to people, and it was saying it's given to the less privileged. I keep on asking, how do you get this data? Is it from the Bureau of Statistics or from where you get this data? Because there are people who are less privileged and they are not privileged to get these things. It goes to a particular set of people. So this thing, there should be a balance in this. If you are giving out to a particular set of people, it should cover across all those who are under this category. It should not be to a particular set of people. The Bureau of Statistics, that's why we need this census to be conducted, so that you should know where this people fall in and where this thing can go to them, so that there should be a balance in all these things going out. It is the money of taxpayers. So the issue of if anything is supposed to go out, if any fund is supposed to go out, all should benefit from it. And the reps to probe alleged disappearance of 10,000 FCT transit buses. 4 million northern Nigerians under threat of food insecurity. This is from the United Nations. The United Nations Humanitarian Coordinator for Nigeria, Matthias, has said over 4 million people in Nigeria's northeast region are expected to be in dire needs of food in the coming season. Speaking at an advocacy event on food security and nutrition in the northeast, which was held in Abuja, said up to $351 million was needed to provide humanitarian support and avert the expected food crisis in the region. On 2023, Governor Umahi denies dropping presidential ambition for Senate. APC flags Fayemi Amosun set to declare for presidency, still on 2023 general election. And Kaduna 2023, Shaban joins Guba race. Kaduna train terror attack victims countdown and 16 days in captivity. This is really sad because we are still counting down to the Chibok and we're still counting down to Leah Sharibu, even in the den of this kidnappers. We should not have any other thing coming forth. And now for the train attack, 16 days where our loved ones are still in captivity. Something needs to be done about their released very soon. And that's all on the Voice of Liberty.
All right, let's take a look at the Sweet Crook reports. We have at 4.6 trillion naira, Nigeria imports more petrol than raw materials and food. This is coming from the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics. You can read more of that story on page 2 of the Sweet Crook report. And we have Shell oil spill drop from 122 to 106 incidents in 2021. And the screaming story, Nigeria earned 668 billion naira from gas export in 1 year. We have NNPC to remit 322 billion naira from Chevron, Shell, and others this month. And you can read detail of that story on page 2. We also have a picture story here, so you can do well to get the Sweet Crook report, and you can read any of the story concerning any of the crook oil. It also of interest to you.
And on New Telegraph on World Bank, Nigeria other ill prepared for debt and food crisis, plans $1.5 billion support for Ukraine. CBN to roll over 141.26 billion naira treasury bills today, and some presidential aspirants have no pedigree. This is coming from Kalu. APC national chairman deputy resigns from Senate. On 2023, on the New Telegraph newspaper, mass resignation looms in Ondo as Akeredolu's 48-hour ultimatum expires tomorrow. On Osun Guba, INEC lists Oyetola Adeleke, 13 others as candidates, gets approval for rallies. Police tell kill 23 farmers in autumn. Akume's local government injures scores. Show no mercy to plateau killers, Buhari orders security agencies. And on ASU to the government, adopt UTAS, meet our demands or strike continues, says it's honorable for federal government to replace IPPIS with its homegrown solution, warns government not to play politics with future of nations. Sele, when two elephants fight, it's the grass that suffers. And now the grass here are the students, because they are the ones suffering because of this war between ASU and the federal government. But we're just hopeful that soon this issue will be resolved so that our students can be able to go back to school and continue with their academic session. NEC will take final decision on zoning. This is coming from PDP. Repeating 2015 mistake will come with greater consequences. This is from Obi. Failure to embrace zoning will be chaotic, says Body George. And details can be found in page 4. On budget deficit hit 7.35 trillion naira as Buhari seeks fresh adjustments to 2022 fiscal framework. Proposes 4 trillion naira for fuel subsidy, additional 182.45 billion naira for police. Consensus not northern agenda. This is from Bukola Saraki. Amechi most qualified for presidency. This is coming from Emir of Duse, and details can be found in page 8 and 26. The last story here on a study which says chemical in cosmetic may double diabetes risks. And that's how far we can go for the first segment on this program. We'll be right back after this time out. Welcome back, and thanks for staying tuned on From the Dailies on Equa Television. We're live on Facebook and we have some comments to read, and our phone lines are open. Do well to call us on stories that interest you. We have a comment from Isaac Obadiah. He says, may God help you in Jesus' name. Thank you, Isaac Obadiah. And Iyakwa Rejoice is saying, God bless you all. God bless you too, Iyakwa Rejoice. And moving to the next paper,
which is the Vanguard newspaper, and we have insecurity, why 2023 elections must hold. This is coming from Amechi and others, and you can read detail of that on page 11 of the Vanguard newspaper. And Osinachi, husband of the late gospel music star, has secret wife, and this is a family source saying that. You can read more of that story on page 6. And on strike, NLC may shut down economy for 3 days and not another strike. I just hope that Labour Congress won't go on that strike, because them going on that strike is going to really, really affect our economy, because almost every other civil servant, any other person that's involved, will definitely go back at home, and that's not what we want. So we just hope that the demands, looking at the roads, I know there was a time that the issue of road was one of the reasons why Labour wanted to go on strike, the fuel subsidy and others. So we just hope that the federal government will be able to look into what is the reason behind this strike, so that they do not go on this strike and the economy will be able to flow without any hitches. And on the big story, we have Plateau massacre, bandits shot beheaded victims in their homes, and this is a report coming from survivors, with the rider say they were attacked through land donated for ranching. They asked the federal government to resettle them, have lost their houses. As Senator Dimka Daudu begs the federal government to help survivors with relief materials. Don't spare or forgive perpetrators, Buhari warns security agency. And we have resigned. Nigerians have shed enough blood, Northern elders tell Buhari. And we can read more of that story on page 8 and also on page 9 of the Vanguard newspaper. And on the Easter break, the federal government have declared Friday 15th to Monday 18th April public holidays. And on 2023, Emir of Duse endorses Amechi for president, says he's most qualified. You can read more of that on page 13. And on presidency, PDP aspirant ready to accept consensus candidate, and this is coming from Saraki. Royal father, 24 others killed as armed headers invade 3 Benue local government cater away motorcycles. And on fake drugs, who stopped shipment of 80 drugs from China and India. This is coming from Adeyeye, and we can read more of that on page 27. And Boko Haram bandit cell, Kaduna government DSS tango over intelligence report. You can get more of that from page 14 of the Vanguard newspaper. And we have the said insecurity, energy crisis undermine the 2022 economic growth projection. This is coming from LCCI, and we can read more of that on page 19. You can get the Vanguard newspaper and read any of the stories that is of interest to you.
And on the Punch newspaper, Nigerians' oil production crashed by 744,000 barrels in March, says OPEC. Oshibanjo seeks senators' support, invites APC reps. The rider says Tinubu's man Faleke to shun vice president's invite. VP's campaign moves to allies. Kidnapped train passengers not insured against terror attack. This is coming from the federal government officials. Northern elders bemoans insecurity, asks Buhari to resign. And 9 banks made 554 billion naira fees commission in 2021. This is a report coming from CBN. PDP consensus suffers setback. Zoning panel submits reports. Disagreement over zoning. Best candidate hindering consensus plan. This is from the party leader. Peter Obi's aide list condition for backing consensus. Atiku busy with campaign. This is coming from his aide. And I can't defeat APC, says Wike. Wike is saying, I can defeat APC. Saraki meets Abia governor, warns against dumping consensus. 6,000 plateau attack victims displaced. Buhari condemns killing. And from Osun State, INEC releases final list. Okays Oyetola, Adeleke, and others. Details can be found in page 17. 25 killed in fresh Benue attack. Governor calls for self-defense. Rejection of UTAS will prolong strike, says ASU. And federal government to introduce online tracking for passports application. Lagos nurse performs surgery on Edo Bees woman. Victim dies. And coming from Ostinachi's death, suspect says wife ill before death. Police verify claims. Army visits father of Osun man tortured to death, hide killers and identity. And that's all on the Punch newspaper.
A look at the Nation newspaper. Presidential ticket, why APC can't use consensus. You can get more of that on page 5 of the Nation newspaper. And we have terrorists ask for millions of naira ransom on train attack victims. Detail of that can be found on page 2. And I remember the terrorists saying that they are not after money, but the federal government know what they are after. So I wonder why this we're still having the doctors still giving us threat that they are asking for millions of naira. The federal government should come out and tell us clearly, what do these terrorists want? We need them to really state it, because we are really tired of the back and forth. We know that they said that the trial for those who are financing all this thing is going secretly. Terrorists are not even allowed a hearing or anything to be there. So we're still waiting to hear what is the outcome of that. And even though they have promised that they need to be published publicly, we are waiting. And we just hope that it's our heart desire that the people that have been, taken captive by these terrorists will be united with their families, and all of our loved ones also that are in the captives of these terrorists will be united soon with their loved ones.
Yes, hello.
And on Oshu, INEC declares Oyetola, Adeleke, and 13 others. Lagos to begin insurance of driver's license. Detail of both stories can be found on page 27 of the Nation newspaper. Adamu Kyari quits Senate, and the federal government have declared April 15 and 18 work free. The big story here, more appointees resign in state over electoral acts with the rider governors enforce section 84 subsection 12 in Ondo, Kwara, Plateau, Akwa Ibom and others. And we have Buhari deploys hideous killing. Autumn calls for self-defense after murder of 10 in Benue. North elders condemn worsen violence. And we also have Agib line sabotage cut gas export with the rider crude oil production dips to 1.35 mega MD, and can get more of that story on page 5. And we have inheritance dispute court orders Indubusi Kanu's widow to serve amendment summon, and detail of that can be found on page 3 of the Nation newspaper. And that's all from the Nation newspaper.
Thank you, Sally. On national economy, customs fresh 15% levy on Tokumbo vehicles sparks protest. Importers agents threaten to shut down ports. Fuel scarcity may persist as existing price regime encourages smuggling. The rider smugglers profit on Nigerian subsidized petrol. Buhari seeks 4 trillion naira for petrol subsidy in 2022 budget. What appears to be an abatement of queues at the filling stations may prove to be temporal as Nigeria's price mechanism for petrol encourages smuggling across the borders. Profiting on Nigerian subsidy, already petrol queues appeared to be petrol queues appears to be resurfacing as yesterday smugglers create artificial scarcity of petrol as the quantum of petrol intended the local market is diverted to neighboring countries. This is because owing to the subsidy regime, Nigeria sells the least priced petrol across West and Central Africa. National economy showed that whereas the nationality pegged price for a litre of fuel is 165 naira, the same volume sells for the equivalent of 600 naira in Togo, 606 naira in the Republic of Benin, 836 naira in Ghana, while 654 naira in Cameroon, and 521 naira in Chad, and 246 naira in the Republic of Niger. Hence, the attraction for criminals to smuggle Nigerian subsidized petrol across borders for higher profits is rife. Associate Professor, Department of Private and Commercial Law, Babcock University, Mr. Tayo Bello, said with the current fuel price regime, even when the Dangote refinery and other private-owned refinery come on stream, Nigeria will still not get enough fuel available on the local market, as smugglers will continue to have a field day diverting subsidized fuel to neighboring countries where the product is priced higher. And I know that over the week we had the issue where they said there should be a special court for those smuggling and even vandalizing our petroleum. So we need to do something about it. If we look at ways we can bring down the price of our petrol, then those who are at the helm of vandalizing and even smuggling into other countries where it's being sold in a higher price, something needs to be done to those people because they are the ones affecting our economy and even causing the whole scarcity we are having in our petroleum. Just this year we had adulterated petrol in our country, and that's affected a whole lot of things. Up to date, people are yet to get on track concerning the issue of the adulterated petrol, and now we are having this issue of smugglers and even those who vandalize the pipeline. So something needs to be done about this, because as we are working hard to see that everything is right on track, we should not have people who will be the ones damaging all the things for us. Still on national economy, 65% of pesticide in Nigeria market highly hazardous. Pencom fault payment of 75% lump sum to retirees, and no British firm for Ajaokuta steel plant rehabilitation. This is coming from the federal government. Firm launches first mini grid in Lagos. Details can be found in page 6 of the National Economy newspaper. And that's all for national economy.
All right, still on the world of business, and this is from the Business Day newspaper. Presidency, Oshibanjo Tinubu in fight to the finish.
We have a caller, Mr. Ima. Good morning.
Yes. bless Equa TV.
Thank you.
Hello, good morning, my sisters.
Amen.
We can hear you. Good morning.
All right. Well, thank you very much. You see, about this refinery issue of realization of the thing, it's just all is a charade. That is deception. You understand? We, as a giant producer of fuel in Africa, sincerely speaking, those politicians keep on using our head. Eh? It's not a yardstick to deceive people. You know, sincerely speaking, look, they say they want to give stipends of 5,000 naira. They promise people loan to you know, they've not even given this loan. Today, the mismanagement of the loan, the manager has been sacked. People playing tricks with people, and they've not given the badges, and they are still receiving more people. Is it for political use or what? You understand? I voted APC because I never liked Atiku. You understand? I risked my life for this Buhari's government. You know, I became an enemy, you know, of the public just because the people in the area which I am were all in favor of Atiku. You understand? But still, it is a disappointment. Sincerely speaking, so let those use our government to stop deceiving people. Sincerely speaking. In fact, it's improper. You know, if all these bandits and the rest will go on these leaders, at least they'll be doing good. But kidnapping and killing innocent people is not the reality. If they will kill 25 leaders, at least this Nigerian will be straight. Thank you very much, and God bless Equa.
Thank you too. God bless you too. Sele, let's move over to the next paper.
Yes, still on the Business Day newspaper, Presidency Osibanjo Tinubu in fight to the finish, and the declaration on Monday by the Vice President Yemi Osibanjo of his intention to seek the ticket of the All Progressive Congress to enable him to run for president in 2023 has pitted him against his former boss Bola Tinubu. Osibanjo has announced his readiness for the contest at a meeting on Sunday night at his official residence. In attendance was Nasiru El-Rufai of Kaduna State, Dapa Biodu of Ogun.
Sorry, Sele, to disrupt you. We have Mr. Stephen from Benue. Good morning.
Morning, how now? Good morning, how are you?
We're
Fine.
fine.
I'm
Good
enjoying your
morning.
program.
Thank you.
I want to ask Nigerians to advise the federal government. The way they brought down the Nigeria police is too bad. Because they are the poorest pay among the armed forces and paramilitary. And they should remove them from PECOM, both serving and retired. That thing is weakening their performance. And they are the ones that are walking around the whole country. They should take note of that. If not, insecurity will take over all the whole nation. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Thank you
so
for your
much.
call.
And other stories still on the Business Day newspaper, explainer how to identify a human trafficker. You can get more of that on page 31. The inside Western countries plot to cut oil imports from Nigeria and others. Mixed fortunes as foreign airlines expand Nigerian footprint. Detail of that can be found on page 2. And illegal fishing, how Nigeria can stop losing $70 million yearly. This is coming from an expert, and we can get more of that story on page 2.
Good morning, Mr. Nehemiah from Taraba.
Morning, my sister. How are we?
We are good.
Hello?
We are good.
Hello?
We can hear you. Go on with your comments.
Thank you. I want to contribute. Hello? Yes, I want to contribute on the issue of petroleum in Nigeria. Our leaders want to deceive us. This government knew that we are the gen of Africa and we are endowed with enough petroleum. If Dangote alone were able to have a refinery, a person long. Why not a country cannot produce enough petroleum that can serve the country in the country? Then comparing us with other countries nearby that didn't have the petroleum, will they tell us that how they are benefiting in other things in their country, are we benefiting in Nigeria here? We don't want them to be at least comparing us with others, how we are in suffering. This government came with intention. They came with intention that they are going to wipe away all problems with their brooms that can wipe a problem. See, insecurity, everything, and up to now they are destroying Nigeria. We are above this. Thank you, my sister. We are annoyed with this government.
Thank you very much.
Yes, and that's all on the Business Day newspaper.
And on Business Standard, Bangladesh is not going to be a Sri Lanka. This is coming from PMO. Withdrawals of sanction Bangladesh to appoint lawyers in US, and CPD for protecting poor buying capacity in next budget. Illegal jammers, boosters disrupt mobile network in Dhaka city. We have some charts concerning how we look out to upgrade. We have Mr. Opara from Bielsa. Good morning, Mr. Opara.
Hello?
Good morning.
Hello?
We are with you, Mr. Opara.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello? Hello?
I think we're having issues with the network coming from Mr. Opara. That's all on Business Standard.
All right, let's take a look at the world of sports. And the gallant Chelsea bow out, and they actually had a match with Real Madrid, and Real Madrid actually kicked Chelsea out of the match yesterday. And we have this, okay, Real Madrid 2, Chelsea 3. And other matches still here. We have Man City put together 250 million euro Hardland package. And we have Roland exits ambassador by Save the Children, and you can read more of that on page 5. And we have Barcelona plotting Felix sweep deal with Alex Deco. And we have Leicester wants permanent Lookman deal. Barca interested in Gabriel. And we have Liverpool ready to pay 42 million euro Chiva release clause. Still on the world of sports, we have Eagles to play Ecuador in friendly. We have Man United, Real Madrid, Arsenal suffer blow in Oshime's pursuit. And we have
Mr. Nathaniel is back. Sorry, Sele. Hello, Mr. Nathaniel.
Mr. Nathaniel is back. Sorry. Hello, Mr. Nathaniel.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go on with your comment.
Yes, we can.
Okay, I want to contribute. You see this?
Like, reduce the volume of your television set, please.
Okay, well, still in the world of sports, we have Chukwezu shoots Valerie into semi-finals. We have Man United, Real Madrid, Arsenal suffer blow in Oshime's pursuit. And still on the world of sports, we have Man United reach agreement with the Hack to become manager. We still have other stories still on the sporting life. So for all our sport lovers who would like to know more on the world of sports, you can just get the Sporting Life newspaper. You can read detail of any of the matches that's of interest to you.
Thank you, Sele. Thanks for doing this with me. And also thanks for all our viewers who called in to contribute on stories that interest them, and those who commented on our Facebook official page. We are grateful, and thanks for watching. Have a blessed day.